food, cuz. It was good, though, right? The piece of steak, you stole it. You came up there and stole my piece of steak, bruh. Didn't even want to eat it. Hey, you a bum. I turned my back and you just gonna, that smell good, you're licking it. You're supposed to eat it if you're gonna take it. Just gonna take my steak. Little turd. That was the only one too. Just took my steak. Buster. It's not good, man. Oh, this is charcoal. Woo! Charcoalio! Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Get started here in a few minutes. See if anybody else made a donation. Oh, excuse me. Nope. Okay. We're still looking at the same. Okay. And you know we ordered a bunch of books. So. Well, not. It seems like a lot, but it's not. Okay. So you know you can follow me on Facebook. I didn't put it on here. You can follow me on Instagram as well. Right now Instagram is feeling a little way. They're emotional. They are still censoring adults as if we're going to pay attention to them with their gay agendas and everything else. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. So you saw I put a thing up about the ATF because I have a friend. I can't say how many years he worked because then they would be able to narrow it down. He worked with the ATF for a handful of years, and he said distinctively there were individuals sometimes he would hear them talking. They had an accent of some kind of European, like German or something like that. And he says he never made nothing of it because people speak languages. But he said it was very peculiar. They will always go on certain operations or ops that were like weeks at a time. Like he couldn't fathom it. He left because he felt it was corrupt. He's real patriotic, and he's an ex-Marine. Some stayed who first generation in America. He says, but they're asked certain questions, and I didn't ask him to go into that because I know that even before I got out, forced retirement, there were certain individuals walking around asking certain people. Usually it's when they bring them in. If you had to, would you shoot a fellow American if it was an order given? And you'd be surprised at how many people said yay. So, and here's the reason why I'm reading Will Cooper, because I know a lot of you don't know individuals like that, but the beautiful thing about staying connected with people all around the world, the country and our world, our earth, you get to meet these people. So I posted it not with emotions or feelings. I posted a subject as a question because it's relevant to the actions. If you see the FBI going after a president, like that's not how it's supposed to work. And then knowing good and well hiding the other actions of another president, who sits there and does that? It's all a big act. It's a big charade. So if it's a big charade, then you need to leave my soil because we're not tolerating that no more. Ugh. I love my Reeboks. Oh my goodness, my Reeboks. I've had these for about 6 years, I think. 7, 8. I don't know. I think about 7, maybe. 5 or 6 years, something like that. These bad boys are, yeah, they get it done. That's for sure. Good on my toes. My big toes don't really have cartilage between the bones. Though it's growing back. Because they were like, we can do surgery, and the butchers of the hospitals, the doctors, we'll cut it out, and your toe will just be flat. I'm like, are you retarded? No. Like I like to kick. I might have to kick somebody upside their head. Even though I don't like kicking high. I'm like, man, floppy toe be bent back. No, man. I like to be barefoot when I have to kick them up. Nah, you know what I'm saying? I kick very, very hard. So can't go a whole bunch of years, even though I don't kick that high. You know what I mean? If I kick you in your leg, I'm gonna break it. If I kick you in your hip, in your stomach, kick you in your ooh-ahs, any rowdy, if I kick you in your arm, I'm gonna break it. Guaranteed. Bad hip, bad back or bad knee, bad back, he's guaranteed. My shins are like concrete. How long you think you can kick a heavy bag, a 200-pound heavy bag or 400-pound heavy bag, and start breaking boards and stuff and 2x4s? All the calcium deposits and builds up I got on my shins. Like, well, I like to run far. Well, when I was running far, no shin splints, none of that. They're solid. I used to stand up there and kick the side of a tree. Leg breathe. Sometimes where the scars are still at, if I scratch the skin, even though it's tough, real tough like leather right there, it doesn't look it. It's just tough. The epidermis is very tough, kind of numb. I can scratch without knowing how hard I'm scratching, just to get an itch, an underneath itch. I'll scratch myself and draw blood. I mean, it's just the way it is. You can't tell. I mean, unless you're right on it. Yeah, so, to have somebody say that. And so I went and looked at a couple of videos, and I'm like, criminals are going to criminal. Like, you get a handful, let's say enough, but the society we live in is a perversion. And most of us are more than aware. Did I share that video showing who's in control of everything? Every one of them in those branches we talk about are small hat people. I mean, it's based on facts. I mean, the names, they're there. If you want to look at who's who and who's who, go and look at every branch of the department and who's in charge of them. My thing is, how do certain individuals just give themselves over to commit the atrocities? Obviously, they must be making a few 100,000 underground bunkers, or a promissory note of, you can go here when everything really hits the fan. We got helicopters, this, that, and the other. Y'all can learn flying lessons. Get here, get inside when everything goes AWOL as far as the game we're playing upside down, and we need you to get out of there after you've committed to doing what you're doing. Maybe, I'm not saying that's reality, but to know people, a friend of mine who was going to join the CIA or FBI, he made it through. And he realized it's not what he wanted to do when he started really giving it thought. Ex-Marine, Pacific Islander. So I'm not here to blow up their spot. It's just part of the game. If you're going to commit yourself to doing these atrocities and everything, the psyops, the mass shootings and everything else, working hand in hand with the so-called, because of their numbers, the Chinese and all of them running around here, and every one of them I'm seeing a gator. I'm like, what is going on with all this homosexuality? It might be an act. I don't care. I just want them off my soil. I want them to go away. I had to make a couple extra candles. It's not the candles. It's not so much. It's more than that. But it opens some eyes. So we're going to get into reading here, okay? I almost dozed off. I'm going to read some of this to you guys. Not today. Illness as a metaphor, phenomenal. It's very tight. It's very... When you look at tuberculosis and cancer, you would believe TB is uncurable as much as cancer. The reality is both are very curable, because tuberculosis is actually a form of cancer. But like I said, it's illness as a metaphor, and we'll get into that if you know what a metaphor is. I'll read some of it to you, and also the transformation, discovering like the wholeness and healing after like trauma related. That's why I'm reading the awakening intuition, waking intuition, by dealing into the science of the sacred secretion, the Christ factor, having a clear understanding of what's been written literature-wise. I think that's how we start with healing. Doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect. I believe it takes a whole lot of folks who've been walking or nurtured in this with better understanding. I'm just fumbling through the dark, if you dig what I'm saying, attempting to be a little beacon of light, to have a little better reception and understanding what it is I am reading, because you know you can't suffer from anxiety because of a medication that's heavy metals, and because of pain that your body has tolerated for so long, and it decides not to tolerate it no more, so it shuts you down. And my anxiety doesn't make me scream or nothing. It literally feels like a heart attack 100 times over. The problem is if it continues, and mine is continuing longer than most, it can create something as far as by way of the mind is powerful. And then the body acclimates to not usually getting used to it. You have to defer it, and you have to consciously be able to do it. So that is what I do. If I get to a point where I cannot benefit when I'm asleep and I wake up and I'm like, what the frick? And I know it might be a dream, it might be a pain, a knee pain, and then all of a sudden it kicks in, then I have to breathe, I got to get up and walk, and then I go, okay. Now, if it goes too beyond, I know that means that because of the years of taking the heavy metal, even in this body, might be 0.05 milligrams will bring it at ease. So there are times when I take that very small, it's like a quarter, 0. Whatever it is, whatever, 0.25, whatever. So it's like a quarter of the entire that I'm supposed to. So that mediates. And then what I do is the next day is I do the heavy flush. Cilantro, parsley, juice, wheatgrass, very bitter, very nasty, almost tastes like soap of some form. And allow myself to retract from the thought process based upon the pain and everything else. So does it mean accepting pain? Yeah. Oh, I told you I have a very, very high pain tolerance. I always say it's going to be very high or it's going to end. That's simple. So let's go ahead and get into reading, guys. Yes, yes, yes. Hey, what's going on? Yes, I love you guys. Excuse me. I don't want to read that one this time. You know what? Let's add this to it too. Let's add this. Influences of it. And we don't want to use that one there. Steak and lobster, carrots and Brussels sprouts. More carrots and Brussels sprouts, about 3 ounces of steak, sirloin, oven roasted with 5 Japanese 7 season or 5 season, whatever it is, cayenne. My green salt, and the same salt on all the vegetables, and the same on the lobster. Fabulous meal. Fabulous meal. Okay. Make sure I don't want to read that one yet. I won't see that. I might come on later and read that one. And I want this. You sure? Yeah. Okay. No Iron Republic right now. Let's get into Arthur Kessler. No, excuse me. I got it backwards. Okay, there we go. George Jones, An Original History of Ancient America. Now, we're just going to pick up on that little part when we got to, and just read. It's 2 long paragraphs. Not long. It's about a page in totality. Page and a quarter. We're just going to read this because I actually read ahead, and it's pretty interesting. Okay? George Jones, An Original History of Ancient America. It doesn't matter whether it's south, north, whatever, central, it doesn't matter. Okay? Let's turn it down a little more. Let's actually turn it off. I like the background music, right? Elevator music. Get on the escalator, y'all. In the last quotation, but one, he distinctly uses the word resemblance. And stay here because Arthur Kessler is about to get good, y'all. And William Cooper is about to get real good. Resemblance, preceded by that of strong to enforce the similitude to the Egyptian. And in the last quotation, he says that the hieroglyphical plinth is analogous again to the custom of Egypt. As he has visited and written of the statues of the Nile, we will not gainsay his judgment, even by a suspicion. Now, the status of the building surmounting the pyramidal base of Uxmal, Waldex Folio, mind you, strongly resemble the general character of the Egyptian. The headdress and cape especially. Now, the difference is that otherwise than the lappet, hood, and cape, That's called lapet. Lapet, I say lapet, but it's lapet. Hood and cape. The figure is entirely naked, whereas the Egyptian statues generally possess the additional costume of the loincloth. They, the ruins, in brackets, are different from the words of any other known people of a new order, and entirely and absolutely anomalous. They stand alone. Let's get into the last paragraph. And every people, he argues in parentheses, and the nations known at the present day by history or by ruins have been searched in order to identify by facsimile, resemblance, but in vain. Though Egypt, we have shown, and the reason why I'm reading this because we all know it was a melanated land, continents. We have shown claims the basis in many attendant analogies. What nation then ever existed possessing navigable means or navigation? Of whose works by architecture and sculpture we have no knowledge? Of course they do. That is the question, and that answered, it will aid the solving of the mysterious problem around the ruins. Now, they literally got there. Anyway, it says then here is the answer. And listen to this. Without any fear of contradiction or denial, the only nation is the Tyrian. Have any of y'all ever looked that up? Let me see if I can pull that up again. It's too far back that way. Yes. It's yeah. You know me. It's a color too. Make sure I spelled it right. I believe I did. The Tyrians were known as workers in dye from the shells of a Marex shellfish. This purple dye, royal purple, pay attention because we know about North Carolina, Virginia, our people, ancestral people, Florida, whether it be Seminole, whoever, identity stolen because the Mongols are mongrels. They're not Shemitic. They didn't do this or make this dye. Just as the Ming Dynasty, but not the Chinese. Seriously, because they worked in the so-called New Age Chinese worked in high, vibrant colors or pastel, like yellow, red lacquers and stuff like that. Oh, do the research. I'm not making it up. Fact check me, please. When you were talking about Hebraicism, a way of life, this is something my great grandmother knew about. She said, when I was a kid, we used to make dyes from certain shells, blue and purple. Highly valued and held royal connotations in the ancient world. It also gave the Phoenicians their name from the Greek phonex, which means purple people. Purple black. I just wanted to make sure I did that this time. All right. It doesn't matter about the fake world the small hat people made. Anyway, that name is used in its triple of Phoenician sense and comprehends Sidon, Tyrus, and Carthage. Not a remnant remains whereby the slightest form can be traced. They lie. Save the mere foundations of their former generations. And it is well known that all that history was kept and placated by the fake Vatican, the fake Ashkenazi puppets of the fake popes. Anyway, trace, save the mere foundation of their former greatness. Egypt was the neighbor of the Tyrians, and consequently imparted her knowledge through commercial communication. Again, navigation. When it states here, possessing navigable means. I wish somebody would try and check me on this. I really wish. I'm not even pulling up all my information. The fact of the matter is, the Hebrew people supposedly hid amongst the Egyptians because they looked alike. And even they tried to eradicate and create a new history with the Egyptian people, with these new breed of Arabs who have nothing, not to dismiss them as a people, but the truth of the matter, dismiss the ancient people of ancient Egypt all over, when that Egypt is the young Egypt. The ancient and old Egypt is right here in the old world. I wish somebody would test me, try me with their foolishness, and it would never be anything trajectory with a how do you say, a responsible question. It would always be something foolish that's entirely like a mishmash. You know what I'm saying? Of a terrible. What is that? One cheese macaroni and cheese Without raisins. I would prefer the raisins being in that hodgepodge of nonsense. Now let's get into a little Arthur Kessler, the 13th tribe. Oh, I'm gonna batter some ideologies, and I know who created the Egypt narrative too. No, we don't want to talk about Hawassi, that goofy Sephardic Ashkenaz. No, that fraud. No, I know so much about that pedo, that pedophile. No, I know so much about that idiot. You know who I'm talking about, that so-called Egyptian curator. Anyway, let's go ahead to Arthur Kessler, the 13th tribe. And I'm going to read this for anybody new, and I'll show you the top. The startling new discovery about the true ancestry of the Ashkenazi people, Jewish people, it will cause a stir by John Barkham Reviews. That's his statement. One of the earliest records of such a community in Germany. No. We covered that. So we know where we was at when we were talking about conversion to Christianity in Poland and all that, and the places they started ascertaining because they created taxes and used finances from wars, and they subliminally hid and then did exactly what the Rothschilds have been doing to take control over society, to bring their people in, to mitigate and marry in, and to a lot of the very terrible things, to kill certain individuals, to poison a whole lot of folk, and to assume their identities. Okay, the world over. Turning from gore to sober statistics, we get a rough idea of the size of the Ashkenazi communities in Germany. The Hebrew sources agree on 800 victims by slaughter or suicide in Worms Worms, Germany, and vary between 900 to 1300 for Mayans. Of course, there must have been many who preferred baptism to death. And they get revenge, right? Payback. And the sources do not indicate the number of survivors, nor can we be sure that they do not exaggerate the number of martyrs. At any rate, Barron concludes from his calculations that the total Ashkenazi population of, they might say Jewish a couple times, but they Ashkenaz. We'll utilize that. From you know who. Okay, Gomer Nyafit for the bibliographers. Anyway, population of either community had hardly exceeded the figures here given for the dead alone. So the survivors in Worms, Germany, or in Mayence, could only have numbered a few hundred in each case. Yet these two towns, with spires as a third, were the only ones important enough to be included in Rabbi Gersham's edict early on. We remember who first created edicts, and why would the Muslims be running around making a fatwa or edict, right? Anyway, thus we are made to realize that the Ashkenazi community in the German Rhineland was numerically small, even before the First Crusade, and had shrunk to even smaller proportions after having gone through the winepress of the Lord. Yet east of the Rhine, in central and northern Germany, there were as yet no Ashkenazi communities at all, and none for a long time to come. The traditional conception of Jewish historians that the Crusade of 1096 swept like a broom a mass migration of German Jews into Poland is simply a legend, or rather an ad hoc hypothesis, invented because, as they knew little of Khazar history, Ashkenazi history, they could see no other way to account for the emergence out of nowhere of this unprecedented concentration of Jews in Eastern Europe. Yet there is not a single mention in the contemporary sources of any migration. You talk about a hostile takeover from within. Okay. He's not going to say that. But large or small, from the Rhineland further east into Germany, not to mention distant Poland. Thus, Simon Dubnoff, one of the historians of the older school, the First Crusade, which set the Christian masses in motion towards the Asiatic East, drove at the same time the Ashkenazi masses towards the east of Europe. However, a few lines further down, he has to admit about the circumstances of this immigration movement, which was so important to Ashkenazi history, we possess no close information. Yet we do possess abundant information of what these battered Ashkenazi communities did during the first and subsequent crusades. Some died by their own hands, and others tried to offer resistance and were lynched. So you know where lynching came from. Okay, and then we're going to keep moving. While those who survived owed their good fortune to the fact that they were given shelter for the duration of the emergency in the fortified castle of the Bishop of Bokreb, who, at least theoretically, was responsible for their legal protection. Now, frequently this measure was not enough to prevent a massacre, but the survivors, once the crusading hordes had passed, invariably returned to their ransacked homes and synagogues to make a fresh start. We find this pattern repeatedly in chronicles, in Treves, in Metz, and many other places. By the time of the second and later crusades, it had become almost a routine at the beginning of the agitation for a new crusade. Many Jews of Mayence, Worms, Spires, and Strasbourg, Würzburg, and other cities escaped to neighboring castles, leaving their books and precious possessions in the custody of friendly Vorgas. One of the main sources of the Book of Remembrance by Ephraim Bar Jacob, who himself at the age of 13 had been among the refugees from Cologne in the castle of Wochenberg, Solomon Bar Simeon reports that during the Second Crusade, the survivors of the Mayans Ashkenazis found protection in Spires, and then returned to their native cities and built a new synagogue. This is the leitmotif of the Chronicles. To repeat it once more, there is not a word about Ashkenazi communities immigrating toward Eastern Germany, which, in the words of Mises, was still Judenrein, clean of Jews, Judenrein, clean of Jews, and was to remain so for several centuries. If that's the case, then what year would it be? 7 centuries? When I last looked, we're talking about what year? 1096, or going back to, we have to stay on point, right? 960? Wouldn't that be about 1400? Right? 15th century? And we know where they were then and what they were up to. The new popes, the magistrate, they had destroyed the Moors of Germany and Spain, and Poland and Russia. We know that 1917, World War I, right? Which ended then, 1914, whatever you want to say. How they estimated, that's why I have a hard time when he says Khazar, because the Abkhazarians were a very dark, purplish black people. Told you it'd be a little saucy. Amite. I know they're looking. They better not say nothing. They're smart. For those of us who watch, know they're not. Are you aware why they didn't really attempt to harm us early on? Because they knew who we were. And then once a few times it happened and nothing really seriously happened, the folklore went back to now everybody becomes Goyim, but not the Negro. And yet they used our people until this point right here with the dumb people in music and sports, the sellouts, the one running around with the boule tattooed on his chest, the idiots who don't know no better because they've been groomed and fashioned for such. Even if it's a Gucci costume, who cares? And what I'm saying is the gravest mistake was to move too quickly on this soil. And yet here they are, believing they're all powerful. Death is not power. Life is. Now, let's go ahead and Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. You would think they would actually know something, pay attention. But when you make the deal with well, I hate that saying devil, but anyway. comes with a heavy price. And sometimes a heavy deal, a strong deal, comes with a heavier price that takes a little longer. Time and patience, they say, is the two most powerful weapons, right? But when you lose control of your time because you have no patience, ergo, the biggest mistakes. Okay, ignoring the Constitution. This is where we're at. Okay. This is page 19 for anybody that has the book. Oh, and we have one more new subscriber I saw. A pleasure joining the tribe, and I hope you come with goodwill and good intentions. The case of Tatum versus Laird, heard before the Supreme Court in 1974, is a case in point. It involved the Army intelligence collection apparatus, which was developing a list of names of persons whom the Army felt were troublesome. Now, the Supreme Court held that the making of this list of this type did not, and by itself, present any injuries. The minority opinion is that the injury in the case, which was a program such as this, made people afraid to use their freedom of speech for fear of being sent to jail for it. But the majority did not buy that argument. So that shows you the Supreme Court is what? Part of the issue. They'll play along and pattern along too. Watch and pay attention. Because if they were really the Supreme Court, they would have stepped in already and says, no, ATF, you cannot do this. This is not how we work on this land. This is not about the Republic. And y'all's fictional democracy wanes outside, but we all know now that democracy was never about democracy on this land because we're not a democracy. There's no democratic anything. It is a republic for the people, by the people, of the people. That's the bottom line. The Constitution isn't for them to be able to say and manipulate. That is not their power. It is to keep them in check, which they have not been held in check because of our lazy ass parents and some of our scared grandparents. And here we sit with a bunch of hypocrites and idiots who don't know no better. The difference between that case and this case, although we also have the computer program, is that we have something much further past the point. The concentration camp guard program and the civil affairs program for the taking over of all functions of our government. In light of that, the federal judge said that this is not an injury. The cops are coming. Well, how many people have been injured? Well, nobody's been shot yet. Oh, man, the cops are on another call. Oh, that's right. The Supreme Court says they're actually not here to serve and protect. That's the sheriff's department. Oh, and deputies. And they could deputize everybody in the city. Now, maybe the sheriffs have forgotten that. Huh, okay. So, as a matter of fact, the U.S. attorney alleged that even if people, who is the U.S. attorney right now, people? Look up the name, please. Even if people were placed in concentration camps, if they were all treated the same way, they would still not have the right to go to federal court. On the 20th day of September, I filed, we already know that the federal court did not deny these things didn't exist, all right? So mind you, on the 20th day of September, I filed a memorandum to notify the magistrate and the federal judge that I had discovered that the federal government had a program for a number of years to suspend our Constitution right of the people and writ of habeas corpus. Okay. Now, this information substantiated the complaint, and habeas corpus is the name of that legal instrument utilized to bring someone before a judge when that person is being illegally imprisoned or detained so that he or she may obtain his or her freedom. Now, the Constitution states that the writ of habeas corpus shall never be suspended. Who? What? It says the Constitution states that the writ of habeas corpus shall never be suspended. Now, I found the disturbing information in a report 94-755, 94th Congress, Second Session Senate, April 25th, 1976, entitled Intelligence Activities and the Rights of Americans, Book 2. Damn. On page 17D, entitled First Amendment Rights, the report states that more importantly, the government surveillance activities in the aggregate, whether expressly intended to do so, to deter the exercise of First Amendment rights by American citizens who become aware of the government's domestic intelligence program. What? Listen, let me say this again. I have to add punctuations because there are none. Literally, there are no punctuations. So let me read that again. He must have got on a roll here. Entitled First Amendment Rights, the report states that more importantly, to be a comma, the government surveillance, semi-quotations, not an asterisk, the government surveillance activities in the aggregate, comma, should be, whether expressly intended to do so, comma, to deter the exercise of First Amendment rights by American citizens who become aware of the government's domestic intelligence program. So when you become aware, it can silence you by that damn American Book 2 entitled First Amendment Rights report based upon the 94-755 94th Congress, Second Session Senate, April 26, 1976, entitled Intelligence Activities and the Rights of Americans, Books 2. Whoa. Whoa. Beginning on page 54, it is stated that beginning in 1946, 4 years before the Emergency Detention Act of 1950 was passed, and we know the Reconstruction era, right? The FBI advised the Attorney General that it had secretly compiled a secret index. Thank you, Christian Dior Wilson. $20. Appreciate it. Donation. Thank you. Compiled a secret index of potentially dangerous persons. Now, the Justice Department then made tentative plans for emergency detention based on suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. Back up here, you know what the habeas corpus was, right? And you can look that up, okay? Is the name of that legal instrument utilized to bring someone before a judge when that person is being illegally imprisoned or detained so that he or she may obtain his or her freedom. The Constitution states that the writ of habeas corpus shall never be suspended. The department then made tentative plans for emergency detention based on suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. It shall never be suspended. So who do these idiots think they are? Because they don't teach you this in school? Because they have foreign-minded ideologies in individuals established in certain places that under guise and false papers of signings, you, because you do not stay in contact with these things and you listen to idiots talking about we Indian all damn day, you don't know how to enact and do otherwise. Here we go. Department officials deliberately avoided going to Congress, and when the Emergency Detention Act of 1950 was passed, it did not authorize the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. And hence why Japanese were held in concentration camps, and some of those were fighting in World War II. But shortly after passage of the act, and we know that the Japanese were not the problem. According to a Bureau document, Attorney General J.H. McGrath told the FBI to disregard it and to proceed with the program as previously outlined. To disregard it. A few sentences later on page 55, it states, with the security index, use broader standards to determine potential dangerousness and those described in the statute. And unlike the act, department plans provided for issuing a master search warrant. Most search warrants aren't really legal at all because those are not judges, those are magistrates. Only the federal court has judges. Based upon, regardless, the Corpus Christi and the fact that they're C of the U.S. corporation, those are supposed to be American judges. But we're going to leave that alone for a minute. A master arrest warrant This is the center importance, and it is the same thing that I am alleging in federal court, and yet the magistrate chose to ignore these facts as well. We have government officials not only ignoring the will of Congress, but going the opposite of what the Constitution provides by planning legally. And for, underline, mind you, and for the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. In addition, as mentioned before, the master search warrant and the master arrest warrant are forms fed into the computer which print the names and addresses on them from the LAPs, the LAPs, meaning those labeled, previously prepared by the intelligence gathering program. You can't make this up, people. This guy was on one. Of course, he had to have insider help. As you are arrested, your home will be searched and anything found there may be confiscated. This program has existed since 1946, up to and including 1973, and without proper access to judicial discovery techniques, it can't be determined whether the same plan now exists under the same name or under another name. Right now, underlined, so emphasized. Now, the memorandum was filed on September 28 to make the court aware of the danger that our rights of freedom of speech and lawful assembly are in. But the current on September 30, after this notification was received, dismissed the case. However, in keeping with the practice of federal courts in Houston of actively participating in the obstruction of justice, I was not notified of the dismissal until the 6th of October, which gave me just 2 working days to submit any further motion in a 10-day period before the time starts running for the appeal. I am so surprised he didn't have a whole bunch of people working with him. I mean, he was engrossed with this. This is whoa. If this ain't them actually allowing something out here for others to use, I'm not going to use it. I'm sharing it with you for y'all to see something deeper. And that's all. Have any of y'all start looking up the people in charge of certain things, the heads who shouldn't be there? The reason why we're sending billions of dollars to a fake Israel on the land of Palestine. I had my boy, who was it, Westside, I believe, looked it up when I told him some time ago. I don't know if it was a half a year ago or whatever. About the 7 other countries that they picked before Palestine, Uganda being one, this land being, they said, heck no over here. And there were 7. Do you remember that Westside? Was the Westside in here? Did Westside come in? Well, if he didn't, well, anyway, Rondo and them know about this. And the fact of the matter is, there were 7 other countries that were looked at before it was picked that they would go over there and start murdering those people in Palestine. Because if you want to know the story of so-called their Jesus, we know what the 12 cranium, the 12 anyway, and the chrism or the chism or the Christ fluid, the ascension, the secretion, the, you know what I'm talking about, existed everywhere, right? That means that he would have walked everywhere at the same time. Okay? That's the hell about your religious contorts, all right? To give y'all a little piece of tool to go and seek out and search. Now, let's get over into, I really wanted to read Gods of Eden and the Anunnaki, but that's set up with other books now. I just wanted to give you all a taste of that. DNA of the Gods. The Anunnaki, creation of Eve, and the alien battle for humanity. I love reading. It's fun. Even though I insert things, it doesn't mean that it's based upon facts. It's about, hey, look it up, check it out for yourself. So we have 2 individuals who don't want to like and they want to watch. I appreciate that. I know it's hard. It might break your thumb, so I don't want your little weak thumb to get broke. You know what I'm saying? Big Jersey, I'm alive, bro. I don't want your thumb to get hurt or anything like that. You know, I could be very meticulous with these things. So I mean, if it hurts, just let's get a brother like. Let's see what he's going to bring out later. We'll come and watch anytime. That shows you the effeminate ones and the broken ones and the ones who are not as strong as they want you to perceive. Anyway, excellent book. Okay. Excellent read. And I know I got the other one. Actually, it's two more that came with it. That was two of the books that I didn't want to share with y'all. I didn't show you yet, but they're pretty. Oh, I got the other book I picked up. They must have put it in there late or something yesterday. I don't know. The Emerald Tablets. Oh my. Yes, I'm going to sit back up on my bed, let my little sore body from doing finger pull lessons, finger pull lessons. I was doing one of the west sides, as quick as I can go. And I mean, that thing, dude thought it was a 4-outer. I was like, no triggers or nothing. That was just me, and not that nonsense. Just me letting that muscle. This is one of the things I exercise with. I have about 3. I have my Eagle Claw, the thing from like 1980 something. I kept 2 of those that I bought Washington Street in Newark, New Jersey. One of the most oldest Chinese Kung Fu, when I studied Kung Fu and karate, they had the best uniforms. The ones that have the little white part on the top part that you fold over with the sash on? Yeah. And I've got 4 of these, and there's different strengths. This gray and the black one's really strong. And so, yeah. So I had to see how that muscle was going to react. You know what I mean? Oh, man. Yeah, I spent it about 240 rounds. I loved it. Oh, it was wonderful. And planking. Plank, 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 plank. Miss, miss, plank, 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 miss, miss, miss. Yeah. All right. We are at the transmission line of high priests, remember? And so when we left off, it was right at, excuse me, from the one, the priests became the depositories, not only of the sacred and secret knowledge, but also of all scientific knowledge. Okay. Now, but the Anunnaki gods also left us books summarizing their science and sacred knowledge. We know from diverse historical sources that Thoth, who was Hermes, had put down in writing the science of his time. That is the Anunnaki science, as much as the Inklites, always prone to transmit their knowledge to us, would allow. Now, Thoth's work amounted to 40 plus books covering diverse scientific disciplines, such as geometry, mathematics, astronomy, and metaphysics. Over the centuries, there was a continuous stream of prominent Greek philosophers. Metaphysics. Could they be related to metaphors and illnesses? Placebos or not, right? The real deal or not? I wonder. Anyway, over the centuries, there was a continuous stream of prominent Greek philosophers going to Egypt to be initiated in the science and secret knowledge of the Egyptians, such as Plato, Pythagoras, and Apollonius of Tyana. And that was here, not over there in fake Greece, who taught his Neo-Pythagoreans philosophy in Ephesus during the 1st century CE. And we know it wasn't the 1st century. Tartaria existed. And so we know this is a constructed lie of the most pervasive. Yet, we'll read on. According to Sonja Klug, another small head, in Cathedral des Cosmos, if the Knights Templar lived in Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem, residence of King Baudouin, officially to protect the pilgrims, here y'all, and I know religious pilgrims, so slow down. Their real aim was in fact to search the underground remnants of the first temple. They would have found there not only Thoth's books, but also the arcane keys to decode them. At that point, Hughes de Payens, head of the 9 knights who started the Templar Order in Jerusalem, officially in 1118, started, listen to me, listen, pay attention, look this stuff up, people. At that point, Hughes de Payens, head of the 9 knights who started the Temple Order of Jerusalem, officially in 1118, would have brought the books to France, to the Cistercian monastery of Citeaux, I forget how to pronounce that, where Hebrew and Arab scholars started their translation. So 1118, we know who these Hebrews were. They weren't Hebrew at all. They were Ashkenazis, just as they're half-blooded Arabs of the conquered lands of France, which also was a very dark, diverse, melanated people with long, flowing, dark brunette, and brown, and blonde hair. Prove me wrong. I wish you would. And then soon after the Païens returned, Bernard de Clairvaux, who had an immense erudition, left Chateau, I got to look that word up and learn how to pronounce it, to create the Cistercian Abbey of Clairvaux, 1115, with a translation of ancient scrolls and manuscripts, including Faust's books, would have been centralized. Klug traces to these as like Koenig. Oh, I'm serious, Ashkenazi. These books to sudden appearance of the Gothic style in French and England in 1118. Ooh, the French knight Hughes de Payens approached King Baldwin II of Jerusalem and Woman, Patriarch of Jerusalem, and proposed creating a Catholic monastic religious order for the protection of, and we know that Jerusalem didn't even exist in Palestine. You know that wherever we were was so-called Jerusalem or Hebraism, which was a lifestyle, a way. Now, let's get on to this last part. These books sum up the science that Thoth wanted to give to the learned ones. But we know also that there was a knowledge transmitted only to initiates, a secret line of transmission that was started in Egypt. It was in place with certitude at the time Thoth reigned. But there is ample evidence that it was already instituted under the reign of Osiris and Isis, which started some 1,100 years before the beginning of Thoth's reign in 8670 before the Common Era. That's what they say it means. As shown by the cults that survived, the mysteries of Isis and those of Osiris, in which many a Greek philosopher and thinker were initiated, and on which Apuleius was lifting the veil slightly in his golden ass. And that's what it says. And I would say we have all the reasons. Yes, that means donkey, jackass, whatever you want to call it. Apple was lifting the veil slightly in his golden ass. His golden ass. And I would say we have all the reasons to infer it had been conceived of and launched by Enki himself, given his dedication to promote humanity to the highest level reached by the Anunnaki, and this in a non-conspicuous way, hidden from the other jealous gods, especially from his brother. Indeed, it is very possible that the very notion of a secret knowledge and transmission line was conceived by Enki in order to fulfill his high aim regarding humanity, that is, to prod human talents for exploring, thinking, and discovering until they get on par with the Anunnaki civilization. This, in my view, was done in the prospect of far-reaching purposes of prodding the emergence of a booming civilization able to replace the fixed and decadent one inherited from Nibiru. Now, this long-term plan could only be tightly hidden from Enlil in English, just like in French. We use the literal and symbolic expression hermetically sealed with a puzzling reference to Hermes to imply impeding any passage of air, liquid, and so forth, or of earth and water, or of information between one system and another. Could it be stemming from the concept of securing a secret knowledge or information among an initiate group and hiding it from the powers that be? I don't think so. No, I think it's something stupid and worse than that. Did I drop it? You know me, I pick everything up and I put everything down. Picking it up and we're putting it down. And then next we get into the genetic engineering of the atomic humanity. That's going to be pretty interesting. I haven't read that far. I know it's going to be pretty interesting. I just looked at the first couple of lines and it starts out pretty wild. Now we're going to hopefully finish up the exposing the expositions of 1851 to 1915, the revised edition of 2021 from the 2019. What are you doing? By Howdy Mikowski. I got the door open. The screen open now. Not the screen, but the sliding door open to the back patio. And this one is having a good time. Must be the other cat out there going crazy. I don't hear no meowing, or, so they're not fighting. All right, here we go. And then he's just talking about his book. Anyway, my book still mostly presents the idea that the buildings were part of an ancient worldwide civilization. Partially, I think, because it was a theory that I almost hoped would be true. A somewhat romanticized view of the wonderful and somewhat idyllic past granted many artists of the same period known as symbolists, such as Arnold Böcklin, and presented this idyllic ideal over and over in their paintings. Why was that style so important in the late 1800s? Excuse me, people, my apologies. In the late 1800s, were they preserving a Greece and Rome from 2,000 years previous, or one from 100 years previous? It is another of these great unanswered questions. This is not to say I have dropped the ancient civilization theory, just that other theories must take their place alongside as very possible answers as well. Yeah, I like when the Pelskin writes this stuff because they feel like they have to be the ruler of something because they never were, honestly. It's a new adage. Back when I was writing this in 2019, we were still living in the old world, if we might call it that. I now wonder more greatly if there were people at the time of the expositions feeling just the same as we soon will be remembering the lost old world. No matter how important I thought this book was originally when I wrote it, given the significance of what has just come about, and so he's talking about when the pandemic started, and still to come, tells me the study of the fairs of 1851 to 1915 is important. For example, the word reset was being used in 2019 by some alternative history researchers to discuss a time of great change between an old world, usually lost via some sort of cataclysmic or destructive event, and the world which followed. What I have to say about it in chapter 7 was left unedited for this version. It is also important. And we'll read the rest of it tomorrow. Now, I want to throw something at you guys, and I want to hear your take on this. I'd rather do it on a podcast, but most people don't come in. Most people don't say nothing. But it can still be a very good conversation piece. And I want to see how y'all feel about this. So, it is well known that we pulled out of Afghanistan and whatever and left everything there. Special force operators, well, the ones who aren't aware, not the CIA or those certain parties, were like, what's going on? And so many people were left. Now, it is well known by certain individuals, I've discussed that, they've had certain special operators, and I can't say it's CIA because there's a deeper military, there's a deeper group that runs with no constitution, no laws, no nothing, no anything, congruent to the CIA. People might be selected from certain special forces, made dead, new identities. That calls have been made, and individuals have been over there. Is it to say that they went over there to hire certain parties and train them for get back, or condition them to say, this is what we found out, this is what is going on, it's not so much our government, or to play that and to say, y'all just be over there in New Mexico, y'all be over there in Mexico. I don't care how you get there. You have some patsies with you. So we'll make sure that we get y'all, put y'all up, because you don't see none of them running around. We've got everything you need, and we'll further contact you once we put you in the certain places we need you. I am just theoretically throwing this out like a screenwrite or a movie of some sort. Cosmic Cell Foods Academy. I mean, I didn't even take that stuff. I know my butthole's gonna be blown out. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay? And now here they are. Ammonium nitrates, 60 tons of it missing. Bombs unaccounted for. All kind of weapons just disappeared under the FBI and ATF's guise. Arming up certain Antifa and foreigners, not even born on the South, Americanized, for the IRS and everything else. I'm just asking. I don't know. I mean, look into it and tell me what you find. You dig what I'm saying? And we still have these two incumbents, or maybe there's some new ones. You just don't know how to hit the like and be respectful. Like, well, I guess that's part of the rolling thunder. If they only knew fire they were playing with on the other side. I don't care about them killing giants or whatever. I don't care about the mishmash of makeup or lizards. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Seriously. You gotta have something to laugh at. Me, y'all knew when I knew it would be something very, very, yeah, it's very, very funny. Closing along Walmart's future concentration camps. No, they have places built out. Trust me. They don't need the Walmarts. They can use those for centers like the post office to run them through in the buses and vans and transport people with armed guards masked up with full armor. I mean, they made movies about this stuff. It's all hypothetical from this view, from this point, okay? But you can see everything that's played out. And I think it's very funny. It's not even a smirk. I do. And I laugh contagiously. I think it's right. I love how it's playing out. Seriously. I really, really do. Somebody said one time, Red, what would you? I said, man, if they came, the way all y'all fools act, and these idiots following idiots, some are we still Indian? I'd be like, let's go round all them idiots up first. I want that one with the big mouth. That was a real tough person, tough girl, a tough guy. Bring them on over. Get them over here. I'll put the mask over their head and give them a couple of wallops. I got the mace, right? Come on, bring them over here. And people said, are you serious? Dead ass serious. When I said I'm worse than Charleston White, I wasn't playing. 1,000 times worse. I give y'all simple directions. I'm still giving them. And it's not a game. So if you fail yourselves, then I'll help you fall further. I sure will. If you rise to the occasion, I'll give you some treats. That's about the sum of that. Let's plug this in. It's about to go down. I like the emotionally unstable. I like those who fret it. Those who aren't paying attention. And then you all think you're playing safe. You don't know what safe is. A lot of you are too dumb to know what safe is. You really don't. You get an invitation. You don't know what to speak and what to say. You don't know what you should talk about. You have people watching, and those are the dummies. You know, when you put a little hex, I hate that word hex. That is the dumbest word in the world. But when you do certain things, and I make sure that I mess with the network and everything to go back, and if they was to look, they'd be like, wait, there is a bleep in the system. How in the hell? Yeah, that's me. That way it touches those coming who want to watch, don't want to support, be responsible. I work that kind of juju. I hate that word juju. I really detest a lot of things in this world we use. But yeah. So anywho, I enjoy those who actually are practical and grounding. Hugging a tree. But somebody said, are you a tree hugger? I was also earlier hugging. I said, yeah. I said, and you're not? And he looked at me like this. I said, no wonder you're so different. And they just walked away. A big old smile. I'm standing there looking like Fu Manchu, barefoot. I don't know. I had no drawers on, so maybe the crack of my butt was showing. I don't know. I don't have real big butt, people. So anyway, I'm hugging the tree. I'm just letting the sun beat me up with the little sleeveless, 5-button, joint. I'm hugged up on this tree like, thank you. I'm so grateful that they didn't. I know they chop you down. I know it's painful, but it's all right because you're stronger than everything. And whatever else I had to think of, process, and to negate responsibly. And another thing, there's a lot of people in these factories that work for these things. They're suicidal. I don't believe in the word suicide, but yeah. So, and there goes that. So maybe some want to be eradicated because there's no other way out. Oh, maybe they're too coward to do it themselves. I don't know. So anyway, I was thinking about lifting that curse. I hate that word, man. These words we use. Any of y'all ever look up the etymology of the word curse? I don't come with the layman's of the first term. Yeah, something paced by a voodoo doctor or spell. No, look it up. The next time I come on, somebody go ahead and be reminded to put that down. You are more powerful than you can even imagine. Even in the worst of conditions and states, you are more powerful than you can imagine, especially our women. Oh, the abilities y'all were given and how you've been robbed by little punk, weird pedo, homosexual doctors and stuff. You know, there was a period of time, I forget for how many years, in the early 1900s, where they were literally, our women were going for simple surgery and stuff, and they would, by the fake laws of the Ashkenazis, because of Margaret Sanger and Bill Gates' father, sterilizing many of our women. Oh, just our women only. Perversely, thousands. Then in the 80s, stealing women's uteruses in Detroit, to name one state. And these people think they can sit up their hands and look, oh, ain't nothing happened to me. I was one of the ones that killed the giant. Yeah. Well, fuck the giant. Now you're messing with something you know nothing about. And you never will. With your little fake, backwards, reverse ideologies that come from my ancestors. You retarded goombas. Simple thing to do is just go ahead and hit the like button and respect and be responsible. Yes, nice actually means a fool or foolish in etymology. Very correct. So, like you plan on giving people and dealing people, be dealt with accordingly. So, anywho, it's been wonderful reading with you guys. We crossed the 55-minute mark because I'm running my mouth, messing with these idiots who come over here. And then they want to go and check up on some of the people to see what's going on with them to go, oh, I might have made a mistake. Hey, did any of y'all get some of this black seed oil? A show? Huh? This stuff is good, yo. Or there's other kinds. I have about 3. Now remember, all right? Remember, as far as this goes, and I don't know if it's on here. I never really looked at it. What I wanted to show you, if it's on here. I had to pull it up. I actually have it on my tablet. Oh, yeah, there it is. Duh. So, see right there? Omega 3, 6, 9. Remember, what you want is 3 and 9. 6, you don't really require. But because 3 and 9 is there, and if you have your right proper magnesium, it's best to get it in vegetables if you can. That's why I make enough. I drink about 3 10-ounce things of arugula, cilantro, cabbage, green apple. There's a whole bunch of stuff I put in there. Not just because of the chlorophyll, and I still use this. So somebody showed a post with me talking about liquid chlorophyll. Tell them I would love for that individual to come and talk to me so I can smack him upside his head about there's different types of chlorophyll. Because some people are so bent on being a direction, then they want you to buy something from them. Get my sea moss. And half the time, that's farm sea moss that ain't worth crap. Don't come from the ocean floor, seaweed or kelp. Trust me on this. These people, they sell themselves short. But anywho, so I use both of them. If I don't feel like doing the juice, I'll have 1 to even 2 instead of the recommended dose. I'll have 2 of the 15 drops in about 6 ounces of water and sip on, which y'all have seen. Getting the benefits of the chlorophyll regardless. So if you want to get all the other stuff, as far as the fiber and stuff, just mix it up. Don't juice it. Actually put it in a blender. And I use coconut water when I do it. If you want to add some fruit, you don't need sweetness. It's better to have the bitter, the grassy taste. I'm serious, y'all. The enzymes, and drink it within the first 5 minutes. Now, the ones that I put in the freezer, when I take it out, I actually put a metal straw, and as it's melting, I sip it, for the enzymes are still active. It's just something I've done for a long time. Anywho, so I appreciate everybody taking the time to come and listen and pay attention. You know, it's all about love. There's only one kind. There's not a mediation for different forms of love. It just don't exist. There's no reality or truth to it. And for those who come with an open heart and open eye, I'm not against government. I'm not against organizations or groups. I'm against the perversion of them. And I stand stronger than anybody can imagine against all of it. I'm attempting to get y'all to walk upright. But y'all still walking on all fours. My beloved, beautiful sisters, my brothers, is always 2 into 1. Chat with y'all in a little bit. Oh, my apologies. You know I always do this. But I know y'all wrote a book. Grey Wolf, Patricia Slade, Rhonda Ron, T. Hines, Wood Sweet, Mikey Hill, Aletha, Snoo. Yo, Booby Brutus, what's going on? Okay. Okay. I'll read all these later. I do. I go and I get right into them and I read them all. Oh, okay. You put it up. Okay, good. Y'all tapping that and it should pop up in the corner. That way you don't lose your what you call it. And then save it. Open it in Chrome. Well, save it. And when I get off, go and save them to your screen. All right. And then look at the stuff that Snoop put up there. Okay. Yeah, well, the Masons here are like backwards, reverse, upside down, inverted. They're fake, and they've been taught a bunch of lies. You dig what I'm saying? Yes, he was CIA. Yes. Fund control group, Soros. Yes, and they're all part of the problem. Soros is not a Jew. He's an Ashkenazi. Remember what I said. Use proper terms and words when you're describing a people who have lived a lie for too long. I told you I've got Ashkenazi uncles. Made sure I knew. They sure did. They made sure. They even have a rabbi, a so-called rabbi, who I used to sit down and converse with over a big called pint of brew in Manhattan. He always liked to go on and look at the peekaboo booths, the 25-cent peekaboo booths on 42nd, whatever that street is on the back. Yeah, 42nd, whatever that road is with all the, you know, when my brother worked at the, you wanted to get a bus or a train. I don't want to say a whole lot on here. But anyway, and we used to sit there and talk for hours, have about 3 or 4 pints of beer before I'm like, look, I gotta go. I'm half lit. I gotta pick up my model car. I gotta go and see somebody. And I gotta get up out of here and go back to the Bronx. So, real talk, if I wasn't going to see a movie or eat at, you know, at Louis Armstrong's restaurant or wherever when I was in New York. So anyway, respect it, appreciate it, and love. Thank you all. You can still donate. It's all going to where it needs to go. All right. Y'all have a great day. And the people in India and in Hindustan, we're the only Indians. Mad love and respect. Like I said, I've got people here. Well, they're born here, some. Retired doctors, very important people I converse with, shoot at the range, play a little golf with. They're respected by me, and I'm respected by them. But as far as the criminal entities, they hate y'all. One's an ex-black cat, and he's really, really determined to protect this land. So I'd love to see the rest of you get your shit together. Excuse my language. Y'all have a wonderful evening.